I'm going to call it a disaster. The disaster of the offensive coordinator search for the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you think that at any point during this, they are going to do some self-reflection as to why they weren't able to score one of their top two candidates? Because I'm not even going to make this about the Bobby Slowick who did this. We don't know beyond the top two who they actually wanted, right? This was basically projected through everyone. Their top two were Mike McDaniel and Brian Daboll. These were the two that the Philadelphia Eagles, not me, I'm not saying Mike McDaniel, I'm not saying Brian Daboll. These were the two that the Philadelphia Eagles valued above everyone else. These are the two that they said they would give autonomy to for the offense, right? Mike McDaniel, Brian Daboll. Shouldn't the Eagles, one of the premier organizations in the sport, who won the Super Bowl 1 year ago, who have plenty of talent on both offense and defense is settled, right, be able to get one of these two guys? Shouldn't Jeffrey Lurie just be able to walk into Howie Roseman's office and say, who are the top two we want? Go get one of them. Cost whatever it costs. Give them whatever they want. Neither guy left for a head coach job. They both took offensive coordinator positions. Mike McDaniel took the Chargers, and Brian Daboll today is going to take the Titans job unless he gets the Raiders head coach thing. So you have to ask yourself, we got chosen, we didn't get chosen, and these two other teams that we don't see as premier organizations, certainly not the Titans, right, got chosen over the Eagles. I just wonder, and I can even come up with an excuse for Mike McDaniel, right? He has this very particular kind of offense he wants to run, Jalen Hurts doesn't do it. Brian Daboll, I can't think of a reason. I can't think of a reason why like they shouldn't just be able to go get him, pay him whatever. You know, the New York Giants, and they were clearly not model organization the last 20 years. They saw somebody they wanted. They went and gave him $20 million a year, and they got John Harbaugh. So I just wonder if, and now they're doing a second interview with Sean Mannion, who, by the way, has only been an NFL coach for 1 year, has never called plays. So now they're going to wind up in a situation where they're either going to get some young guy who's never called plays going into a year where we have to win a Super Bowl, or some also ran offensive coordinator like Matt Nagy or one of these guys. And Ike, the final thing I would go into thinking is this just, it not only reflects poorly upon the organization today, it reflects poorly on their decision to hire Kevin Patullo, especially if they're going to hire another guy who can't call plays. Because you already last year, you all decided, right? Nick decided, Howie decided, Jeffrey decided, this is our guy. And after 1 year, where there are plenty of other excuses from the offensive line to whatever, fire him after 1 year. And I just wonder, Ike, if there's going to be any self-reflection for the organization, for the Philadelphia Eagles, and say, why did someone choose the Titans over us? Right. Why did somebody choose the Chargers over us? And why are we in a position where we're either going to get a lateral move, some guy who also hasn't called plays, or an also ran that can't get a job anywhere else? Yeah. I wonder if they're going to look at themselves and say, maybe it's us, you know?
It's a good question. I don't know. You know, when you've been successful doing it the way that you've been doing it, as long as you've been doing it, I don't know. It doesn't mean that they don't have the ability to self-evaluate whether or not they went through the proper steps in the process. You know, some could think, you know, last year they hired Kevin Patullo without doing a bunch of interviews. I know it was late in the hiring process, but still, to me, I felt like they had already made up their minds,
of course,
that he was going to be promoted to OC. And maybe they look back at that, and now they're trying to do their due diligence. So I'll only say that to say, there has to be some self-reflecting there, but I don't know if this hiring process is what brings it to them or brings them to that self-reflecting. Maybe last year's hiring process did it, and now they're trying to do it differently this year. Here's the thing that makes me scratch my head. The reports are they were willing to give Mike McDaniel or Brian Daboll full autonomy.
Yes.
How true could that be if the entire offensive staff is still in place?
Right. And maybe, remember, the day after Daboll's interview was the day that we heard he wasn't interested anymore. Basically, he took the Tennessee job today, and we heard he's not really out of it. But the next day, Rossini said he's going to go to the Titans if he doesn't get the Bills job. Yeah. So what happened during that meeting that Brian Daboll said, not really interested anymore?
I would have to imagine, and I'm just guessing, use my brother's term, Hugh Douglas, reckless speculating.
Yeah.
They didn't have full autonomy.
Right.
maybe in play calling, but certainly not in their staff.
Sure.
And the one thing about these coaches, especially guys like Mike McDaniel or Brian Daboll, who have been head coaches, these aren't first-time play callers. So they have a staff and guys they've worked with that they feel comfortable working with. They put that time in as offensive coordinator and then a head coach. So to get somebody of that caliber to come in, I would imagine they wanted to bring in some of their own people or some of their own staff. That's the only thing I can speculate about is that they didn't like the setup the way it was going to be for them as a coach.
But to me, that goes back to the self-reflection, right? Mm-hmm. We have to get over Chip Kelly. We have to, not we, they.
I know what you're saying, yeah.
Howard Roseman's got to get over Chip Kelly. And Jeffrey Lurie's got to get over Chip Kelly. I know he burned you 10 years ago. I know how he took away your responsibilities. Jeffrey, I know you put all your faith in him and it didn't work out. But it doesn't mean that for the rest of eternity, you can't put your faith in someone else, right? Yeah. And I just think if they're going to aim high, you were saying it yesterday about they should have just kept Patullo. And I think to an extent, it's less about Patullo and it's more about where they're ending up.
Yeah.
You know?
Look, Kevin Patullo, I didn't know him from a can of paint a year ago, so it's not I'm beating a drum for him. It's just more or less, if Sean Mannion, who now has been reported to have his second interview with the Eagles, if he's going to get hired, you mean to tell me that's better than somebody who's already been here?
Yeah, at least Patullo's called plays.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think an idea they wanted these guys, but in all reality, if that was the case, then you clean house or you clean most of the house. Now, Jeff Stoutland's not going anywhere.
Sure,
right?
but anyone else.
But all the other guys, and listen, I have nothing against those guys, but if you want one of those guys of that caliber, that's probably what it's going to take because they're used to working with someone who already knows their system.
215-592-9494. Do you think the Eagles are going to look at themselves as to why they weren't able to land one of their top two offensive coordinator candidates? And this is the last thing I'll say on McDaniel specifically in this. Because you said, well, maybe he couldn't do this, that, and the other. You think going into Los Angeles with Jim Harbaugh that there isn't some sort of power dynamic that would be interesting there, that he was more comfortable with Jim Harbaugh? You know, Jim Harbaugh has a lot to say. He's a play caller, right?
Here's what I'll say to that real quick. There's obviously a level of respect he has for Jim Harbaugh and wanting to work with him that he said, even if I can't bring everybody I want to bring, this is still a better situation for me here. And that leads you to believe it may not be just the coaching staff setup. Could it be where Nick Sirianni stands as the head coach, the job security? Jalen Hurts, could it be his playing style? Right? That Mike McDaniel will say, well, even if I don't get everything I want as an OC that I was asking for in Philly, in Los Angeles, I'm already working with a guy who I know is a proven head coach, a play caller, someone who's been successful. You got Justin Herbert out there. And it's Los Angeles. So he's looking at that situation and saying, versus being in a unsettled situation and not knowing where I'll be in a year, I'd rather take this job.
And then I look at Daboll, and if you just look at the situation side by side, Robert Saleh was a disaster as a head coach in New York for the Jets. They have a second-year quarterback, not a ton of talent or anything in there. You just look at the situation side by side, and you would say to yourself, if you can't just overpay the guy to come here, there's something wrong. They should look at themselves, I think. And to me, again, it's less about these other guys. It's more about you identified two guys. If you are the organization you think you are in the league, you should be able to get one of those two guys, especially when one of them went to Tennessee.
Do we really believe they wanted one of those two guys?
I do.
Well, why wouldn't you just give them what they want?
But because I don't know. It has to be a power thing. It's just like all right.
It's crazy. I'm with you, man. When I hear Sean Mannion is getting a second interview, I didn't even know he had the first interview, and then he's getting a second interview.
And nothing against Sean Mannion, but he's been a QB coach for 1 year in the NFL. That's who should be going to Tennessee.
Right.
And he should be a QB coach in Tennessee or something like that. That's the guy that should be moving around, and in 5 years we should hear about Sean Mannion.
Yeah,
not today.
Sean Mannion in this city, in this pressure cooker, with coming off the season we just had, and what's going to be hovering over the team moving forward. I don't know. Is he ready to be here as an OC?
You better have an egg shield around your house.
Well, at least Kevin Patullo is going to be here to help him with learn the ropes.
Right, like Elliot said.
Kevin Patullo's going to be sitting back like, yeah, y'all go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean Mannion.
Yeah, this is going to be good for you.
With that, yeah.
Nick Foles is backup with the Rams.